Okay, okay, it's recording now, and I'm really happy to be speaking today with AJ Kern. She's a person who's spoken down here in Rochester before and all over the place, really, in Minnesota. She's a patriot and a person. I realize it's been 6 months since we've talked, and that's way too long because you're the person who sort of inspired me a year ago before the start of 2020. It was about the month of November or December that I made a New Year's resolution that I would go online with events and start doing things like this. And then it wasn't until March, I think, that it really began because of the lockdown. So we were told everything would be back to normal by June, chickens on beaches eating people alive. June came and went, and no result, and now the endless lockdown. And in some ways, it's like splattering a plate full of water. It just ended up bursting everything all over the place. So much more is happening, and so many more people coming over to our side. So I guess today, the Christmas sessions, we were hoping to speak about Christmas traditions and your take on Christianity, the lockdown, what we're going through, and what Christmas means to us during this very bizarre uh, year with hair walls and so on. Um, First of all, I mean, what are your thoughts, AJ? I'm already.
Well, I wanted to start out by talking about your Christmas caroling that you're doing by yourself. And apparently, you must be an excellent vocalist because you are singing by yourself. And I think that it's amazing that you're going to these nursing homes and singing to these poor people who are isolated. It's very inhumane, and I admire that you're doing this because you said to me when we were having a conversation a few days ago that you don't really testify to Christ as a Christian, as a believer, as a follower of Christ. You're not really
Vocal.
evangelizing, I guess you would say, but I would say when you're singing "Oh Holy Night," which I love that song, or you're singing one of the songs about Christ, you are testifying. You are testifying, and that identifies you immediately as a believer in Christ. So I just wanted to point that out that you were saying, "Oh, I don't really do that," but it's like, no, when you're singing, Wes, when you're taking your time to go sing these wonderful songs to people, and especially these people that are isolated, you are testifying to Christ. And so you are going to sing a few. Uh, give us a little bit of it.
Well, that's interesting you mentioned Oh Holy Night because that's one that's the hardest for me to get to because it's so beautiful. And a lot of Christmas carols are in the minor key and involve some really complex arpeggios inside chords. And they're tear-jerking songs, and it's that the birth is beautiful, and yet it foretells the prophecy of the death and the resurrection. So there's the knowledge when you're singing Silent Night or Oh Holy Night that the the end is already foretold in the beginning. So that's why these carols I think are so moving. And when I was singing today, and I was singing at my parents' building as well, and people coming to windows and neighbors coming out around the streets. And I went to my buddy's house and sang for his 5 kids. They do homeschooling. And then he told me, he filmed the whole thing, and maybe we can post that somewhere. But he told me there were people across the street who came out with their homeschool kids, and they had their 4 kids out on the porch, and they watched the whole thing. And when I was a kid, everybody did Christmas caroling. But I went to my English teacher's house here in town and sang for he and his wife, and they came outside. I went to another patriot's house who we did some open up rallies last summer, and he's very really elderly guy, and we all remember going door to door and cups of cider and hot cocoa, and you'd have a cookie, and then you'd go to the next neighbor's house and you would sing these songs together. And I remember being in the pews with my mother as a very young child singing these songs. And the music of Christmas, to me, they can't cancel this. They can't cancel Christmas. It's very deep in us. They're doing their best ever since Easter to cancel everything about our culture. It's very Maoist. Uh, Independence Day is canceled. You mustn't celebrate Thanksgiving. You must not celebrate Christmas. They're doing their best, cancel culture, to get rid of the old holidays and wheel in the new. Well, I started today at City Hall in Rochester, and I sang for about an hour, and had a very interesting experience. This was the point when you said we should be doing this online, because save this story. So here it is. I'm singing, and this gentleman comes outside, and he's wearing a security badge that I recognize as one of the swipe badges that you need to have in the government center to get into the higher floors, so to speak, up the elevators. And I recognize the guy, and I can't believe he's coming outside. And I'm wondering, am I in trouble or something? Because I've been doing this for 5 weeks now, singing, making a lot of noise in front of City Hall. But he had a card in his hand. And he said, I just want to give you this card. And I said, okay. He said, thanks for what you're doing out here. And I said,
Wow.
well, I appreciate that, you know. And I said, well, it turns out it was Judge Lund, Judge Kevin Lund, and he's a district, and he's, you know, Olmsted County judge, and he's a pretty high up guy. And he came down from the 6th floor to hand the little drummer boy a Christmas card. I got in my car later on, and I opened the card, and he said, thank you for bringing a little joy of the Christmas with your marvelous caroling. And I'm going to treasure that card for the rest of my life.
Right.
And so it's funny, I hadn't opened it, but I kept singing. After he went inside, about a minute later, Olmsted County Sheriff's Department man came outside, and I thought, okay, good cop, bad cop. Now I'm going to get arrested for disturbing the peace and singing, because we mustn't be singing. Singing is forbidden. You can't go to church. And sorry,
you're spewing your COVID germs when you're singing, right?
Right. It's
even if you're outside and there's no one around.
Virus. It doesn't affect the Indian reservations. You can go to a casino restaurant and have a bar, have a drink, and go to a nightclub at an Indian, because you're fine, because it stops at the border. That's autonomous. It's a woke.
Yeah.
So it knows. He had 2 bottles of water in his hand, and he au contraire, instead of, I thought, well, this letter I'm being served, you're disturbing the peace. Report tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for your trial. And here comes the sheriff's guy. He's going to book me. You know, come on, this guy's singing in front of City Hall. But no, he had 2 bottles of water, and he gave me water. And he said, thanks for doing what you're doing. So that was my brush with the law. But these are strange days, with the churches being threatened not to open up, and, you know, restaurants and bars.
Well, that's a positive sign that there's still some people within the government that haven't completely been deceived and lost their mind. So that's a good sign. It's encouraging.
Should I do "Oh Holy Night"? Because that is one of my favorites.
Oh, if you can hit those notes, go for it, brother.
It's easier standing up because my diaphragm's all pinched, but oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he awoke and the soul felt its worth. A glimpse of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices, O night divine, O the night when Christ was born. O night divine, O night divine.
Yay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that particular song, when fall on your knees and hear the angel voices, I can just imagine that day when Christ comes back as king, and we do see the thousands and thousands of uh, saints and angels who are going to be on their knees and singing, and we just can't quite comprehend it, but it's songs like that make you come closer to that moment and kind of get a touch of it. And so that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
I really admire that you're going and doing this. I mean, it's really sad that that everything that's happening right now. I mean, I never dreamed anything like this would happen in my lifetime. And you were talking about these older people that are being isolated, and some of them are dying because they're being isolated. And I did see it was posted, the CDC infection fatality rate, it's so small. Even for 50 to 69 years old, the fatality rate is 0.005. And we're acting like the world is coming to an end over this virus, and it's not. It's just one. This virus has allowed the globalists to take one giant step forward, and that's what this is about. And so people are wearing their mask and everything, and I almost, just out of rebellion, I mean, I won't wear my mask unless I just absolutely have to. If you go into a hospital, you have to, but if I'm going into the grocery store or Walmart, I just go right in, do my thing, and no one says anything to me. But I can't, when you see so many people just willing to succumb, it's like, we could all smoke a cigarette through our mask. Do you think that it stops the virus? No, it doesn't. And it's all nonsensical. Close down a restaurant, but you can go stand by people in Walmart. And it's all random. It's not based on the science. And I mean, how could you even think something like this up? It's so nuts. And Ron Branster brought up the World Economic Forum, and I would encourage everyone to go to their webpage, because those are the global elites trying to push this. And just sign up. I did. I have a sign in, and I get their newsletter. So when they come up with their next level of insanity, you can see what they're doing. Just like they have something going to try to deal with those of us resisting the vaccine, and they want to entice you, to do it, or give you some incentive, like, hey, if you go ahead and get your vaccine, we're gonna reward you somehow. And it's like, this is nuts.
Truly.
But anyway, I'm kind of getting off track here on that, but I know Ron had talked about that, and I know you've talked with other guests about the voting fraud, and that's just, they're just doing it in front of us. They just know they can get away with it. And that we've put aside the Constitution like a long time ago. Even the Republicans did. So, take the federal education. That's not constitutional, but yet the Republicans support it. Well, every time you take a little nibble out of it, you're weakening it. And so now here we are. There's no doubt about it. We have a corrupt government. Now we're going to be, our leadership is going to be a puppet for the Communist Party in China.
Hmm.
And before we get too much into the Christmas issue that we wanted to talk about, I did want to point out, which I know you're well aware, and I was thinking about this because you had a video having the flag. The flag was tattered. Was it at a hotel?
Yeah,
And you wanted it to be taken down, taken care of, and maybe a new flag put up with respect.
they took the flag down the very next day. In fact, I happened to be sitting at the parking lot eating when a gentleman came out to take the old flag down. And it's a 24/7 flag. It's lit at night. So they they took it down at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I posted a follow-up video doing that. And what I'm going to do tomorrow is go back and do a third video because the new flag is up.
Oh, they did that quickly.
Yeah, it actually
Wow.
just, it was a matter of 48 hours. There were
Wow, that's
two people
incredible.
called.
Well, good for you. You had some success in that, but it made me think. Oh, let's see, Rochester, Minneapolis, St. Paul have sister cities, and Rochester they have a sister city in China, and
Hmm.
so it's all very it seems innocent and good intentions and all of that, but um, they have annual events. They have U.S. China People's Friendship Association Minnesota chapter, facilitating cultural, commercial, technical, and educational exchanges.
Hmm.
Um, and
Well,
Minnesota chapter hosted the national convention in October 2019, and we're completely
mhm.
we're completely giving them a pass on their concentration camps. We're giving them a pass on their totalitarian surveillance that they do on their people. I mean, kumbaya,
Yeah, that's the
pass the fortune cookie.
transplant program where you can buy a kidney from a political prisoner.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So
organ harvesting. Hmm.
um, I think it's a part of that deception that is growing, and that one world global governance, that there has to be a great level of deception for the masses to hold hands and go along with it.
Hmm.
And so I think when the Chinese have been working to, at our universities
Hmm.
and in our state and local governments, they put money into elections to affect our judges and
Yeah.
local officials. I mean, just like Swalwell, what's his name?
Swalwell, yeah,
That had the
the
Chinese.
Chinese spy girlfriend for many,
And
many years while he's accusing Trump of nonsensical stuff. He's actually sleeping. There's Dianne Feinstein, who had a Chinese person working as her chief of staff. There's Mitch McConnell, whose wife took payments from the Chinese Communist Party for years. It goes on, and this isn't like about nice food and a bowl of rice in an exotic restaurant. This is some deep Chicon ties. They were able to point red like dog, like wag the dog style. They had us focused on Russia for 4 years. The Chinese want us to be fighting with the Russians. The Russians
sure,
are the sworn enemy of the Chinese. So this whole pivoting us toward the very people who weren't attacking us at all, but Putin was very patient with Obama, with all the misguided missiles that were going off track, with all the extra bombing of Russian facilities. I mean, whether it was Syria, they were trying as hard as they could to get Russia to engage us in a war. And Putin, I think, was just waiting for the next guy because he knew he shouldn't. cross that tripwire. But yeah, we're supposed to embrace the Chinese. The 1,000 Points of Light program involved in technology transfers to the Chinese government. They've been stealing our technology from our universities. There were arrests of professors. I believe it was MIT. There's 3 universities that were involved with professors were on the take from the Chinese Communist Party, and finally arrested because they were taking technology over there. Then, of course, there's the one last point is there's the connection with uh, the Wuhan, where the virus was created, the laboratory where it was created. There's some really interesting payments that were made by Fauci and others to fund research at that facility. And AJ, you froze up. AJ? Okay, I guess something hit a tripwire there. So we're going to start over with a part 2. We're going to have to end this and try again.